Hey everybody, welcome to the Little Monsters Movie Podcast.
Good evening, children of the night.
My name is Dino.
I'm Ted.
And we're going to be talking about an awesome movie today.
One of my absolute favorites.
The
Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man, 1973.
1973.
Not the Nicolas Cage.
I was hoping we wouldn't even mention
No,
that
okay,
one.
sorry about that.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
Okay,
I never saw it.
Well, yeah, most horror fans of The Wicker Man don't want to bring that one up anyways.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I guess I want to start off by saying, normally we post the movies we're going to be watching ahead of time, so that you can watch them and then listen to us talk about it and you've already seen it. If you have not seen this film, just don't watch. Go watch the movie and then come back. Because I don't want to... Because we're going to talk about the whole movie. You know, spoilers galore. Because there is a little bit of a reveal at the end once you realize what's been going on.
Oh, yeah.
And I just don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. I remember the first time I saw it and it's gotten into my mind and under my skin and... just love it. It's one of my, not just one of my favorite horror movies, but one of my favorite movies.
Even if you go into detail, it's not going to give anything away, I don't think.
I mean, well, you know, I wouldn't want to spoil it for anybody who's never seen it. You know, I think we talked about it either last week or the week before. I first saw this movie when we went to that Beware video ages ago, like 15 years ago. That all they rented out were horror movies and cult movies. Is that where you
first...
I had heard of it. No, that's where I'd heard of it before. You know, reading the monster magazines. You know, maybe there was some talk of it coming out on DVD because DVD was kind of newer then. And I saw the videotape from Magnum, and you know, I rented that and I rented Suspiria, and both of those had such a big, you know, it just kind of showed me horror movies can be something else. Yeah. And my tastes have gotten a little bit more discriminating, I think, since then. They've spoiled me a little. But Wicker Man, definitely. Just one of my all-time favorite movies now.
1973.
So, right. This started...
Typical... I mean, just the atmosphere of 1973. It's a great 1973 movie.
You know what I like about it? And when you watch it, you'll see that even though it was made in 73, there's not really anything that dates it to 1973. There's no cars or technology that dates it to that time. You could watch it now and go, yeah, this could be happening right now.
Well, the music.
There's that one part at the end you get that little...
all throughout. It's like that, you know, Simon Garfunkel. It's got
the music is...
Cornhusk Harley.
Corn Rigs.
Yeah, whatever.
I have the soundtrack. I love it.
I mean, actually it's really, really cool. I mean, you know.
They were shooting for... I mean, just in a nutshell, this film's about a police officer, a very, very conservative, Christian, religious police officer. This takes place in Scotland, who receives an anonymous letter addressed specifically to him to come to this island off the coast called Summerisle. Doesn't really exist. Right. And
Summerisle, that's actually awesome too.
I know.
And the guy in charge, Lord Summerisle.
Summerisle, Christopher Lee. And it includes a photograph of a young girl about 13 years old, said that she's been missing for several months. And could he please help? That's how the movie starts. Well, there's some scenes where, you know, he's in church and stuff before that. Because we're watching the final cut. There's multiple versions. There's a extended version. There's a theatrical version. Now there's this new final cut.
And I'm sure you being a big fan, too, know the masonry involved in the movie. Even the very beginning, when he's at church. If you notice in the background, there's symbols of Freemasonry.
Well,
the back wall.
Masonry is certainly big in Scotland. There's the Scottish Rite of Masonry. So, and
wasn't there a part of it with the rituals they do? And
he's asking me because I'm a Mason.
Yeah,
I didn't do anything that was in that movie.
No, we won't say nothing.
And a lot of police officers are Masons, just kind of like historically. There's a lot of cops there.
I just threw that out there because I actually seen a lot of symbols throughout the movie that dealt with Freemasonry symbols. Mm-hmm.
So, well, even like when they make... I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but when they make towards the end when they're having the May Day festival and they cross the swords, that's... you take away the lines going this way and it is, you know, the Masonic symbol there.
Well, even when he goes into, like, we're jumping around a little bit, but when he goes to the Bureau of the Death, you know, whoever the woman was in the office there, There were Freemasons up with it in their uniforms up on the wall. Even. Yeah. So I mean, they were
good eyes
everywhere. And yeah, I spotted eyes. That just everywhere.
It's not one of the things I usually notice. I'll have to go back and kind of. I don't notice as many of the details that you're talking about. So, but that's the cool thing about the film. Every time I watch it, there's just more to watch. I could watch it all the time.
Great movie. And he plays the character of the police officer very well too.
Yeah, I've never seen him in anything else. I know he's been in other things, but I've never watched him. A little bit about the movie. Christopher Lee especially was very dissatisfied with Hammer. He had done Satanic Rites of Dracula. That was the last Dracula movie he did for Hammer. Yeah. And it's awful. And
exactly.
There's, I mean, there's good to be found in any Hammer movie, but it's pretty much awful. And he was pretty dissatisfied with that and felt like he was being typecast. And he met up with this producer, and they decided that they'd like to do a horror film together, something different, something that he could Christopher Lee could sort of sink his teeth into. Yeah. And they bought the rights to a book called Ritual. I've never read it. I'd like to read it. And evidently they ended up using very little of Ritual to make this film. Little bits and pieces are in there, but from what I understand. I'd love to get my hands on a copy of the book and read it. There's even a novelization of Wicker Man, and I'd like to read that too. So they bought the rights, and then they started working on this film. And yeah, I think even to this day, Christopher Lee says this is his favorite film that he's done, and he's done, I think, 275 movies.
Really?
And this is one of his favorites that he loves to talk about. So, and it's a great character he got to play. It's
exactly.
This is the type of horror film where it's the people are the monsters.
And he got to show the 70s dude, which I think you really liked too. So, but yeah, I love when during the beginning of the movie too, when they start when he comes up in a plane, and I know I'm jumping right in here. But all the villagers come out. They're looking at this guy coming up, like, the windows are coming down, the old folk are coming
stranger,
yeah.
It's a very close community, and any stranger is going to, grab everybody's attention.
Yeah.
And I just love how it starts off. He gets off the plane, they finally let him come ashore, and he's showing them the picture, and no one knows who she is. She's not from this island, I've never heard, I don't know her, I don't know
They
her.
Deny totally until he has a little bit of proof, and they go, "Oh yeah, okay, right." I mean,
yeah, the name,
every time.
The last name, the girl who's missing, her name is Rowan Morrison.
Yes.
And they're all looking at this photograph. All these older gentlemen, they're all looking at the photograph. He's passing it around. She's not from this island. And he mentions the last name Morrison, and if they have Morrisons on this island, and there's May Morrison who runs the post office, the government office down there, and you might want to talk to her. But as he's walking away, they say, "But that's not her daughter." Yeah, I love that. And it begins.
And that carries throughout the whole movie, where they just.
There's people who will confirm who she is. There's people who are denying it.
Yeah, the more you get into the movie, they do start going, "Oh yeah, okay." It's like a slow ease into, okay, Rowan Morrison was around, but
right. So
which we'll get into, alluding to if she's dead or alive, or what happened to her. Yeah.
And just as we go through the film here, the character, the Sergeant Howie, is the officer's name, and he's very, I don't think he really knows what to expect when he goes to Summer Isle as far as this community's religious beliefs and their views on certain subjects that some Christians would find very taboo, especially sex. And as of right now, once the film's starting off, we hook up with Sergeant Howie. He's the guy that we're strangers to. We're watching a movie. I don't know what's going on here, so I'm just like him. I'm walking through. And, I feel a little bad for the guy. He's trying to find out what's happening to this missing girl. And
they're all denying it.
As the film goes on, I find myself being less and less sympathetic towards him. He's very intolerant. And we'll get into that in some of the parts of the film.
Right.
Just openly bashes everything they believe in. And you can't believe that no one knows about Jesus Christ and resurrection, and every time he'll bring up something, they'll find something to nail him down a little bit with, and we'll get to some of that. And he's speechless. There's a couple of scenes where he's absolutely speechless after they pin him to the rack a little bit too about what he believes.
Yes.
So I find myself being less and less, and then at the end I feel a little bad for him too. But
right.
But throughout a big chunk of the middle of the movie, I don't really like him very much. He's kind of a jerk. It blatantly breaks the law. He's doing an investigation.
He's not letting anything get in his way.
No, especially he's not letting the law get in his way.
There's a little girl missing, so
but he's also
going to take every step he can to find her.
Breaking into people's homes and searching.
Once you find out that all these people in this community are little nutso.
Well,
in my eyes, I'm seeing it that way.
They've got They have a plan. Let's just put it that way. So
I like when he does go to Mae Morrison's.
The post office.
She's got a candy store.
Yeah, it's also a sweet shop. Post office / sweet shop.
And he goes in there and he says, "I like your rabbits." And she goes, "They're hares."
That's right, not silly old rabbits.
Yeah, that's a big thing,
The March hare.
How dare you?
The March hare.
Exactly.
The rabbit is the hare is a sign of spring, a sign of rebirth. We tell jokes, rabbits, multiply, multiply like rabbits. They're just very fruitful, and they're a sign of the rebirth of spring. And in pagan religions, that was, they were certainly a symbol of their belief. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like what we do. This is a community on this island of pagans worshiping the old gods. It's primarily like a fishing and agrarian community. They're known for their apples and produce and things like that.
Their harvest.
Right.
Thus the Wicker Man.
Which we'll get to the Wicker Man. Yes. Wicker Man is actually based on something real. The first, I think, that we hear about it in writing is from the Romans. Right. Even Caesar and some of those guys wrote about it and said that these, when they conquered like Britannia and Gaul and all these places, I think there's some back and forth if there was actually human sacrifice involved. There was definitely animal sacrifice and giving produce and all that, but I don't know if there's any definite proof that they actually did human sacrifice. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But I kind of did a little research on when I first started getting into this movie, and that's what I had found out. So, following along with the story, Sergeant Howie goes to the sweet shop, shows the lady who runs it, Mae Morrison. I received this letter,
it's her daughter.
Said, "Is this your daughter?" And she says, "That's not my daughter. My daughter's right over here, Myrtle. She's over here painting a rabbit, little girl."
She's painting a hare.
A hare. Yeah. Thank you. And she has to leave for a moment, and this gives him an opportunity to talk to the child. Maybe he can get some information out of an unsuspecting child. And this is his first, almost his first little clue.
Right.
Because he says, does she know Rowan? And she says, of course I do. She's, out in the meadow. And
she's one of the hares.
Right, and that's what she ends up saying, that she's a hare.
Yeah.
And so that throws him off a little bit. Mm-hmm. And
so he just
so it's getting on. By the time he gets there, it's afternoon, evening, going into the evening. So he goes to the inn, the Green Man Inn.
Oh, this place is great.
The
characters in the green.
It is. I mean, and the thing is that the scenery, the buildings, the music. They really, they really strove for authenticity in this film, and I think that's another reason why it's so popular with a lot of horror fans. They, I don't know the people who made the music, but they I don't know much about them. I mean, but the music just sounds authentic. I don't know if any of these are actual real songs from that region, but they just
the
music
is great,
and it helps move the story along.
Yes,
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say this is a musical, but I mean, there's a song at least for the first half of the movie about every 10 minutes or so. There's a song, and the songs are all very. I mean, just very
about what's going on in the movie.
Well, there's a lot of double meanings to the songs. I mean, the first song that when he comes into the inn to get a room and a meal for the
landlord's
night.
Daughter.
The landlord's daughter, who's played by Britt Eklund, who's just gorgeous.
Yeah,
she was a Bond girl too. I think the Spy Who Loves Me.
She declothes in this movie, so
well,
a little bit of a piece.
She does have a body double in the movie too.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, the backside scenes are a body double.
But when they do start singing that song, the landlord's daughter, very. The sexual innuendos going everywhere. I mean,
gyrating going on.
Her father's back there.
He doesn't even care.
Oh, no, he's laughing it up.
This old guy with a beard's just bumping into her backside a little bit, and
Sergeant Howie's just very,
he just very uncomfortable.
Oh my God, what's going on?
Yes, just very uncomfortable with this, and that's one of the things I like. All the songs in the film progress the story and they're not just there. Like a Disney movie, just to be there.
Oh, right.
These songs have a point to being in the movie. So he shows the picture around to the, this is just the congregating place of all the people in the community, the menfolk, and he shows the picture around, and everyone acts as if they don't know who she is. Yep. He notices some photos on the wall.
Each year's harvest.
Right. There's like a little harvest festival in the fall, and there's a picture of like a young girl and a big example of the produce for the season. Yep. And he notices that the picture from 1972 is missing. There's all these photos, and the one from 1972 is missing. He asks about it, and they just say that it's broken. It broke.
It fell down and broke.
He doesn't really think anything of it, but it sticks in his mind, and it's something that he'll remember later on. Yeah. He gets his meal. That's where he finds out that because he asks for dessert and asks for an apple, and because this is what Summer Isle is known for. They're known for their apples. This area of the world's like a temperate zone. It doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold, and they grow a lot of vegetables that you probably wouldn't think that they grow. I mean, there's palm trees on the island and things like that, but those things are there, so they do have those because of the environment. And that's where she tells them that they don't have any apples. She tries to tell them they've all been exported, but we're going to find out that isn't exactly true.
It's all canned.
Yeah, everything's canned. His beans are blue, or turquoise. I think you said turquoise.
Turquoise, yeah. Turquoise. Yeah, and she's definitely very attractive.
Oh, Britt Eklund.
I'll just bring that up again.
I mean, I think she was completely overdubbed in the movie. That's not her voice, I'm pretty sure. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was not her voice.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the first movie I ever. Well, apart from Spy Who Loved Me, this is the only other movie I think I've ever seen.
Okay.
So, but had you seen the movie before?
The Wicker Man?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I watched it. Yeah, it was a long time before I just recently watched it again.
Okay.
So yeah.
Because this is a film that was notoriously cut when it was put out. And it just reminds me because as we're talking about the story, a part that was cut out is coming up here pretty soon. That
yeah, you let me know because I don't think I know all the versions as well as you would. But.
Yeah, it was cut for I think just when this film came out, it kind of just defies categorization. It is a horror movie, but it's also a mystery. It's a musical. I mean, there's music in there, and it's like a thriller, kind of like a psychological type thriller, maybe.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard. It was probably a little bit hard to sell this movie.
Yeah, because it's different. It's definitely different, especially for 1973.
Right. I mean, there's nothing, and even now, I don't think there's anything like it.
Really.
And maybe that's just why for hardcore horror fans who know this movie and love this movie, that's why it sticks out. Yeah. There's nothing else like this. There's a million slasher movies. There's a million monster movies.
Oh yeah.
But this one, the monsters are people, like I was saying, and it's just there's just like a little kind of like reminds me of like The Shining. There's just a little sense of dread. The whole movie, nothing's going to end up being good in this film.
No.
And
you get that feeling throughout that it's not going to end up very well. I mean,
right.
But,
and it was they decided to cut it so that they could pair it up with another movie, like as a double feature, like at drive-ins and things like that. And as the years went by, just these truncated versions of the movie is all that existed. There would occasionally be like screenings of a longer version, and they did eventually put that out on a DVD that I had. and the quality wasn't great. I think some of the footage was sourced from videotape and things like that. And then finally, when they decided to try to put it back together the way that the director intended, they had to find all these pieces. Some of the film, I think I had read a quote from Christopher Lee that some of it was buried as landfill to make a highway.
Really?
And it's unless you dig down in there, it's gone. And I think it turned out that Roger Corman had a print of the movie that they had sent him to see what he thought. What trims would he recommend for an American audience? And he had a copy of almost the complete film, and they were able to use that and some other footage that was found to make this, what now we have on Blu-ray is the final cut. Which I do notice some things missing from it that were in the extended version that I used to have on DVD. But there's almost all of it's here. Nothing that's not in it is, I remember there's a part at the beginning where Sergeant Howie comes to the police station and a couple of guys are making fun of him before he even comes in. And they're talking about him.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, it'd been nice to have it, but it doesn't. The parts that I really remember there, like after Howie eats his meal, he goes outside for a little walk and stumbles into... There's a cemetery adjacent to the inn, and stumbles out into this big orgy scene. There's just people copulating right there in the grass out in the open.
Got all their clothes on. I mean,
Some of them. There's a lady at a headstone weeping.
Yeah, she was fully unclothed, yeah.
And that part, I think in the regular theatrical version, that whole part was gone.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that was a bit risque.
And if you have the Blu-ray and you watch it, you can tell, the parts from the theatrical edition are, very good. The depth and clarity are very good. And then when you see some of the extended footage, it's definitely got a lot more grain and a drop in quality.
Right.
And I love a part where he goes back into the inn. He's
he gets pissed off and goes
enough of this. Goes back into his room and he hears. He doesn't realize that it's Lord Summerisle. It's Christopher Lee's character. It's the first time we see him.
Yes.
And without this scene, we don't see him until much later on in the movie. And he's offering... Britt Eklund's character's name is Willow McGregor. Mm-hmm. He's offering a young boy as a... Not a sacrifice, but he views her as the human...
Aphrodite?
Right, the human incarnation of Aphrodite.
Yeah.
And he's offering her this young boy. And... He goes up there.
Very nice of him to do.
Yeah, I mean, and the guy didn't look like he minded too much.
No,
so
not at all.
And then Sergeant Howie's right next door. He's saying his prayers at his bedside, and he hears what's going on. Her room's right next door to his, and he's hearing what's going on.
Thin walls.
And all the while, there's these fellas down in the pub playing this song called Gently Johnny.
Yeah, the hippies down there. And that's where the mood is just, like, great.
Right, and the song.
They're all singing.
Do you know the...
No, you probably know the lyrics.
The lyrics
they're all looking up at the room.
Right. They know what's going on up there. And they're the lyrics, I put my hand upon her thigh, and she said, do you want to try?
Right.
I put my hand on her belly, and she said, do you want to fill me? And I mean, just the lyrics. I mean, it's. I don't want to say like in the 70s it was prudish, but they're probably a little bit more liberated than we are now.
Well, it was. Yeah.
But for a film, it's not. If you weren't paying attention, you probably didn't pay. You paid any mind.
Yeah.
But what I really like, a part that had been cut out of the theatricals when that's going on, Christopher Lee has this little monologue talking about how he, really admires animals, how they don't have, classes, and they do what they want. They don't have to worry about being happy, unhappy, and all the while there's these two snails on a branch kind of intertwining.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the story. I see why they probably would have cut that out for an American audience, but it just lends so much to it now. It's so
the
cool.
Moodiness, the
little
symbolism to the it's
little things. And I remember seeing that on the videotape. Mm-hmm. And then, like when it first came out on DVD, I got like this theatrical version. I didn't realize that stuff had been cut out.
Yeah.
And I remembered right away that part wasn't there. And then it came out with a big, like a box. It was in a wooden box. This is what I had for a long time.
Oh yeah, I remember when you got that.
Yeah, that wooden box. Yeah. And inside was the DVD cases, and it had the theatrical, which, coaster for your drink, sorry. And this extended, which I had until the final cut came out. I watched the final cut and I realized, pretty much everything I loved about the extended edition was in there. So I, recycled that to somebody else who could enjoy it. So
I sold it on eBay.
Nah, I think I gave it to my sister or something.
Oh, okay.
Like that. You know, I'm not sure, but I don't have it anymore. I don't.
You got the version you want, so
right, and it just came out on Blu-ray here in the States. I think in the last year or so. We waited a long time to get a really decent copy of this film. I mean, it was like one of my last holdouts that I really needed. I love this movie so much.
Yeah, you got your collection, right? So you're pretty set on what you have now? Or?
Can someone please put Suspiria out on Blu-ray in the United States? I know it's supposedly coming, but please, and do it nice. Those after that, I think I'm done. Okay. Unless Universal puts out some more, I'd love to see some of them. But I'm the big movie collector. I think out of both of us, I don't think I have my shelf and my movies. I don't have a lot though. I'm very particular.
Well, all mine's on hard drive. So, but anyways,
I just like to have something physical. I still buy records, CDs, and books, regular books, and I just like it that way.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
So where are we in our talk of the movie? So he
wakes up the next morning.
And it's the day before May Day. So the first day is April 29th, 1973. The next April 30th. And he's going to continue his investigation. He really didn't get too far that first day. Yeah. So
he heads out to
it's time for another song because the kids have got the maypole going.
Right, that's right.
Yeah. And and that's another song that's got some double meanings to some of the lyrics. And the kids are all running around the maypole, which is a big phallic symbol. And and you're right. He's going to the school.
Yeah.
And he walks in, and what is she talking about as soon as he walks in? She's asking the class what the maypole represent, and the phallic symbol, and he walks in right when she says the word penis.
Yes.
And that's it. What the
what
filth?
He's just so detested by the whole thing.
He takes her outside.
How can you name a male body part like this to children? But he was very.
And I love how she tells him. And the woman who plays the teacher, I can't remember her name, but I believe she was married to Sean Connery at the time.
Really?
Yeah, little stupid stuff I know. And
Sean Connery.
Yes, and she says, I didn't think the police had any business in education. Like, well, we'll see about that.
And he wants the ledger, and she says, no, you can't have that. You need to get permission from...
Oh, yeah.
Everybody says that, and he says, nope, you're going to show me, and you're going to show me now.
No respect for any protocol. No. Even though I think Lord Summerisle would have given him permission for anything he wanted to do. Because we're going to see this is all just, Right. I mean, because he's going to end up seeing these things anyway.
Yeah.
So he passes the picture around to the girls. They all say they don't know her. Every desk is full except for one, so he's very suspicious. He says, I'm going to write her name on the board. They got a lesson on the board. Doesn't care. He erases the whole lesson.
He erases half the board.
Right, and I used to teach, so I'd appreciate that. He comes in there...
The teacher's going, I got to write that back up there. And it's very neat.
And all he does is write Rowan Morrison. He couldn't have just said it. He erases half the teacher's lesson to wrait Rowan Morrison.
I never thought of it that way. I mean,
that's because you didn't teach.
Although, what was she teaching? I mean, whatever. But
penises.
Yeah. And all the girls in there are just all very...
giggly.
Giggly. And, we're not telling you nothing.
Right. And...
they all deny knowing
he asks,
girl.
They don't know her. He asks whose desk that was.
One lone desk in the middle of the room.
It's nobody's desk. And
he's just like, they're all just lying out there.
I probably would feel that way too, and then he finally says, let me see your ledger, and she won't let him see it for... Well, she doesn't offer much resistance. She tells him he needs permission. And
how about the cockroach in the desk when he lifts up...
Oh, yeah, she's got the girl with, a nail in the desk.
Yeah, and the cockroach is going around.
Tied to a string.
And she tells him, he goes around and around.
Until he can't move anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, well...
Very sadistic of her, I mean.
And she says, the poor thing. He's like, poor thing, then why do you do it?
Just to be evil.
And I know, since we mentioned it, the 2006 remake, which I never saw, but before I came over to talk about the movie, I did watch the trailer for it because I've never seen it. I just wanted to see a couple things. I didn't really want to talk about it because I know everyone hates it, and they do show a scene in the trailer where he opens a desk and a crow or a bird flies out.
Okay.
I mean, the bird doesn't make any noise in there.
I've seen it. It was so long ago.
You watched that?
Oh, God, I think it's when you turned me on to the original Wicker Man, and I did watch it, and I don't think I was very impressed with it.
I don't think anyone.
It's 2006, so it was a while ago. So
I've never seen, not just, you know, I like Nick Cage. I like a lot of his films.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, he's in a lot of crap, but he's usually the best thing about it. Kind of like Tim Curry.
Right.
He's in a lot of bad movies, but he's always the best thing about those movies.
Exactly.
And he gets the ledger, and sure enough, Rowan Morrison.
She's on.
And it's got her age, 13, and he looks over where she lives, and it says the post office. So now he's ticked off. Oh, he just feels everyone's lying to him, everyone's playing a game, takes the teacher outside, and this is where he really, I think, gets the first taste of what they really believe. And
right, because she out and out says that, okay, the girl was here, but
right.
in a roundabout way, she's not explaining what she means by dead.
Right,
alive.
he says, is she dead? She's either dead or alive, and she says, we don't use the word dead.
Right, and she don't even say it. She goes,
yes.
So yeah,
and she starts to explain some of the things that they believe, that you know, they believe in reincarnation, that they would come back as animals or plants or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he's amazed, you know, haven't these children ever learned of Christianity, Jesus Christ, you know? And I really, this is one of the times where they pin him down a little bit, you know. Mm-hmm. They say, you know, those dead bodies in the ground don't lend themselves too easy for children to understand the idea of resurrection. Mm-hmm. You know, they can understand reincarnation, that the spirit goes somewhere else and the body decays in the ground. Right. But for the body just to rise back up out of the ground. And that's his first little taste of, you know, it's just kind of being stumped, you know. And,
yeah.
I mean, because when you really think about it, I mean, he looks so down on what they believe. Yet, you know, he doesn't, you know, take that ability to analyze things and point it at himself, at what he believes, right. And why he so devoutly believes something that has its own share of you know, mystical qualities to it. So.
Yeah. Another acute observation is all the pussy willows on the in the area. They're just all in bloom. They're everywhere.
Pussy willows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, phallic symbols. You know,
yeah.
You know, just bringing it up. There is a scene later on where they show a huge bush in the shape of a...
That's true.
You know,
that's true.
Male, and then all the pussy willows everywhere else throughout it. I mean, just they're everywhere.
Right. Yes.
I mean, but anyway,
well, the place is surrounded by phallic symbols, especially this time of year. So, let's see. After that, there's another cemetery adjacent to the school. I don't know if it's another cemetery or the same cemetery. Well, she says it used to be a church, and she says it's not really a church anymore. A long time ago,
abandoned. And
right. So he's gonna, you know, just not for any particular reason, he decides to walk on in there. Comes across a lady breastfeeding and holding an egg, just sitting there. Hi. And
offering this to the god.
Oh, do you remember like the headstone?
Okay.
The one he walks in, it just says someone's name, and it says protected by the ejaculation of serpents.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, it's one of the headstones. He looks at it, and that's what it says on there. And again, just another
that is so rude.
Well, this is, you know. There's another...
and he knocks everything off.
Yes, when he's going to make the cross.
And he takes two wooden pieces of wood.
Yep. Breaks it.
Oh, well, the breaking, too, is just so easy. Like, it was... The director came over and...
It's like a...
Started it off for a little bit for him. And, yeah, I know, crate wood.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to break. And, yeah, puts it into a cross and throws it on there. And...
Right. I mean, just... The most intolerant man I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's where he finds out about the whole reincarnation thing and what their thoughts on it, because there's a tree planted over
on every grave,
yes.
Right? And the groundskeeper's there. And the only thing I remember this guy from is the weird guy in Clockwork Orange. Alex's like parole officer or whatever.
Yes. That's right.
I remember from Clockwork Orange. And
what is hanging on the trees? I forget again.
It's the umbilical, the umbilical cord.
That is?
Yeah,
okay.
The umbilical cord.
Okay.
I guess they keep them, and when they pass away, they kind of hang them on the tree that they plant on the
Christmas
grave.
Time, I mean.
And so he asks him, you know, who is, you know, this is Rowan Morrison's grave. He confirms this is Rowan Morrison's grave, that the headstone just hasn't arrived yet.
Mm-hmm.
and that she died about the time that the letter said. You know, he said she's been gone for 6-7 months, and I think that's what he says. You know, like 7 months or something like that. That she's been buried. So he's just very confused. You know, why if she's dead? Why are they lying? And that's when he starts suspecting some foul play might be involved, that everyone's covering this up, and someone wrote this anonymous letter.
Yeah.
And
I still don't think he understands it has anything to do with religion or anything like that.
Not yet. I don't.
Yeah.
No, he'll put it together soon, but he doesn't get it yet. So then, once he finds out that she's dead, or that people have confirmed that she's that he goes back to the post office / sweet shop, and is this the part where the other daughter's getting the frog?
She got a sore throat
to get rid of the sore throat.
Yeah,
and
can you imagine putting a frog in your throat?
If it works out, do it. Because I hate sore throats. Suck.
It took away your sore throat now. See,
well, then the frog was croaking like crazy. And he goes in there basically just as, you lied to me. And then, he's going to go to the Hall of Records, and he's going to find a death certificate. And this is where we see Ingrid Pitt. She has a smallish role in this movie. She's an alumni of Hammer movies, Vampire Lovers, Countess Dracula, one of my favorites.
Probably came along with Christopher Lee.
I mean...
He probably told her to heck with Hammer films. Come over here with me, do this film.
She did other films. Those are the only 2 Hammer movies that I know for sure she did.
She's got a can of peaches on her desk, too.
Yeah, a can of peaches. And she doesn't look all that attractive when we first see her. Her hair is done it weird. But by the end of the movie, her hair is blonde and down, and she's gorgeous. So, 2 of my favorites. But no, like Countess Dracula and Vampire, there was Ingrid Pitt. Stuff, man.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean that's why the Hammer Glamour book. Just
Hammer Glamour.
Love that book. So he asks to see the record of deaths, and Rowan Morrison's not in there. There's no listing that Rowan Morrison had died, and if there's no death certificate. So there's no actual proof that she died, except for people telling him that that's her grave, and everyone else saying they don't know who she is.
Yeah.
So I really like the interplay going on here, where he's being lied to, but then he's getting a little bit of the truth, just enough to make him suspicious and stick around.
Right.
Because he could just say, I'm going to go back, I'm going to get some more cops, and I'm coming out here.
I'm going to get back up.
Find out what's going on.
Exactly.
And he doesn't do it. He stays. He's so determined to find what's going on. Because you would think
that just her name being in that ledger for the school alone is enough evidence to go back, to
warrant a bigger investigation.
Yeah, but he doesn't,
Nope.
So, yeah.
So this is where he's starting to think of some foul play. And this is when the picture from the Green Man Inn gets back into his mind, and he goes to the guy who develops the photos. He's the pharmacist / photo developer. Everyone does
medicine, and I take pictures.
And you walk in the store, and there's jars of foreskins. And wasn't there like there's like a vat with like pigs in it or something like that.
Yeah.
And
the thing with that too, though, is part of its body was about 2 or 3 inches just up over the case it was in.
Right.
I mean, wouldn't that just rot? I guess the liquid is just.
I guess.
Anyways, whatever.
But it was cool. There's all kinds of cool stuff in this shop. It's like an apothecary.
Yeah.
And
cool little store. Not sure who's buying anything.
Yeah, really, well, if they need medicine, they probably have like one doctor. I mean, but it is cool how it's just so self-contained, and then he asks. He's going there to ask if he's kept, negatives or copies of the picture. He informs him that the picture from last year's missing, gone.
And he goes, really?
Oh yeah. What do you suppose could have happened to it? And he says he doesn't keep copies. He doesn't keep any copies. He doesn't have the photos. So he views that as a dead end and goes and now it's time to go see the boss.
Yeah,
everyone's always telling him Lord Summerisle, one of Christopher Lee's best parts.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I mean, still something he could kind of sink his teeth into, really play the character, and the character's got a couple of sides. I think by the end of the film.
Yeah.
So Howie's on the carriage ride, and he's going to see something else he ain't going to like here.
Yeah.
You remember?
The young girls.
The dancing
and they're like, what, 15, 16, who knows how young.
We're going to say in this movie they were 18, all right.
Yeah. But, they're,
maybe in the story they were younger.
Yeah, they're naked, they're in a kind of a ritual going on, jumping over the flame like a bonfire.
And it's like a Stonehenge kind of thing. It's the stones, the old druid stones are there.
And are they actually naked in the movie? Because it looks like skin suits. I mean, like...
Man, that's... I don't know.
Don't do well. I mean,
I don't know if they had skin suits in the same... I'm going to say they're naked. And I like it.
Well, as Lord Summerisle says when he starts talking to Sergeant Howie, they can't wear clothes because they would burn.
Isn't that the best part? He's like, now, of course they can't jump through fire wearing clothes.
And you gotta love when he walks
in the movie.
Oh, it is. It's great. As if the flames are coming
and I love
out
it.
they're
singing this
body.
They're singing this little song and jumping over the flame and dancing back and forth and. He's disgusted. But yet he still goes to the window a couple times and looks at what's going on.
And discuss. Oh my god!
He's in Lord Summerisle's house. He's waiting for him to come down. He's standing right by the window. Yeah.
And the whole time, Lord Summerisle's
sitting
chair,
right there,
and he just pokes his head out.
Hello,
I'm here. and
you filthy animal.
Oh, and he's got a lot of nice stuff in that house.
Oh, he's got a lot.
It would go for a lot of money. I mean, that is.
He's got a lot of heads.
Sale. I mean, come on. Very nice, though. Very nice.
Yes. He's the Lord Summerisle.
Yes.
And this is, of course, Howie's got to bash him a little bit about, these girls dancing naked over here. And
he comes back with great, like we said, reasons why they are like that.
Right. He's saying, it's part of their beliefs. They are, they're preparing themselves for the May Day festival, and they're hoping to make themselves, what's the word? When a woman wants to be, she basically just wants to be fertile. Thank you.
Yeah.
And they're hoping to be, jumping through the fire so that the fire god will, fill them and they'll have a child of a god.
Eggs will keep dropping. Bloop, bloop,
and Howie thinks this is, ridiculous. They don't know anything of Jesus. And I love it. He says, whose mother was also, a virgin impregnated, I believe, by a ghost or something like that, to that effect. And he shuts right up. He doesn't say anything, and I love that because he can't say anything.
Right.
They're nailing him about his beliefs, any chance they get.
Yes.
And it's absolutely true. So, and they go for a little. He asks for permission to exhume Rowan Morrison's grave,
right?
Which he completely says yes, go right ahead. That's why I said every time someone said go to Lord Summerisle, he would have said yes anyway, but he never asked. But it's all just part of this game, and that's what we're going to learn as we're watching the movie. It's just a game. Everyone's in on it. And
he's laughing inside, going...
And that's why, part of why the movie is frightening is that this game that everyone's playing with him, they have researched him. They know who he is before they send that letter. They know what kind of a person he is. I can only imagine maybe they had someone come and kind of spy on someone, or they had to know somehow, and it would be kind of interesting to know how they picked him. But sometimes what you don't know is even more frightening, and these people just blatantly believe in what they're doing, and that's why I think some of this movie resonates today. With everything we've got going on in the world and people with their religious beliefs, and just this really this zealous belief that they have that it's going to come to a crescendo at the end of the movie. So this is where Lord Summerisle kind of explains the whole bit. How his grandfather came to the island 100 years ago, and learned how because of the fertile soil, the volcanic soil, that he learned how to make different strains of fruits and vegetables, and once. And Christianity had tried to establish itself on this island, and because he came up with these other strains of fruits and vegetables that would grow better on this island than what they were trying to do, the people got really excited, and to kind of keep them happy and keep them working, and keep the whole community doing what this original Lord Summerisle wanted them to do, he gave them back, like you said, he gave them back their old gods, and said it was because of the old gods that this was happening. And this is where I get to where, by the end of the film, if you've seen the film, you know where it goes. Does Christopher Lee's character really believe these things? Because he knows his grandfather did this on purpose to the people. The people believe this. All the people that live in this community, they believe the old gods. Oh, yeah. But I kind of wonder, and it's never fully, stated for you to figure out. It's just for yourself to figure out if he really believes in these old gods or not. I want to say that he probably does not. But
you think so, yeah?
I do. I think he doesn't actually believe this. This is just what's going to keep the people happy, keep them working, keep Summerisle prosperous.
It's been passed down to him, so he's continuing on the
That's what I think. So, and he explains all these things to him. This is, how we believe, and this is, and he gives him permission to exhume the body if he wants to exhume the body, and, be on your way. He's like, I'm sure there's no foul play. Go ahead. And you'd probably want to be out of here before tomorrow. If you're so easily offended, you probably don't want to be here on May Day.
Making him, of course, want to be there. If he's telling him to go, you're going to want to stay.
Exactly. So, yeah. It's like he's repulsed, but he wants to see. He can't get enough of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And and May Day is still celebrated. I mean, it's a spring festival to in this case, it's to appease the gods with sacrifice, to ensure a good fall harvest. It's a spring ritual of rebirth and renewal. There's always, like when they have festivals, or even around here they have them, and a girl always likes to sit at the foot of the maypole to see, make sure she's fertile. And there's a lot of pagan things that we still do. I mean, we have the Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
Just like the March hare and everything that they talk about in the film, we have, the Easter Bunny, and that's supposed to be the resurrection of Jesus, but somehow Jesus and the Easter Bunny got all tangled up. Yeah. And, Christmas, I don't think a lot of people even realize, mistletoe, that's from the Druids, and a Christmas tree, that's pagan as well. Right.
Well, yeah, it's all
everyone is celebrating, while you're celebrating the birth of a Christian Savior, you're also incorporating pagan symbolism with it as well. Yeah. And I always find that really interesting. I'm not a religious person at all, and I just find that really interesting that we do that. And I get a little kick out of pointing it out to people. So, not in a mean way. I just, you know what that is. So
that's facts. So yeah, understandable.
But I think a lot of people just don't ever take the time to think about it, and it's just something we do. And why do you put a tree in your house? What does that have to do with Jesus?
Well, it's pretty.
It does. It does. I like
get presents under there.
Oh yeah, and presents. It's all about it.
Okay, yeah, and so what? He goes and he digs up.
Yeah, he and the guy from Clockwork Orange. You don't know his name. Dig up the grave.
Morrison, yeah, and he doesn't find a body, but he finds a hare. A hare, not a rabbit.
A
but
hare.
He finds a hare. Not a piece of hair, but he finds a hare.
Bunny, rabbit, hare. Yeah. And I love he goes back to Summerisle. It's night. He doesn't care.
They're enjoying some wine.
Yeah, the teacher from the school. I think her name's like maybe Miss Rose. I think they're at the piano. He's saying, "Hey, did you listen to any Christopher Lee's heavy metal yet?"
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah,
no,
Christopher Lee.
Haven't.
He does metal.
He's on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes. And you hear how he's singing there.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same, just he's older.
Really? Okay.
So, he's got that big voice. And
so
anyway, he's playing the piano, they're singing some song, and Sergeant Howard just comes in and flops this hair right on the floor. I mean, not a
right
little...
next to the woman in her nightgown.
Flop!
There she is.
I found that in Rowan Morrison's grave.
Do you love his Victorian kind of
when he says
outfit? I don't know.
Christopher Lee's.
Yeah,
I love it. I love the puffy shirt like Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's what it is. The puffy shirt.
The puffy shirt.
Oh man!
And every time I've watched this movie, I don't know why. Whenever he says, "I found that in Rowan Morrison's grave," I just think of Scrooge McDuck. I don't know, it's just the way he says it just reminds me of Uncle Scrooge from DuckTales. In a grave.
In a grave.
And, it's just, they they think nothing of it. Like, yeah, she loved the hares, and I think she'd be very happy with this. I mean, as far as they're concerned, especially the teacher, Miss Rose, who's a devout believer. I still question whether Christopher Lee believes these things, but he certainly acts like he does.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence either way. It's just my gut feeling because of the history, and he knows where those old gods came from. But maybe he believes that, they really did bring back the old gods. It could certainly be.
Yeah.
And as far as they're concerned, she has reincarnated, and this is what she has come back as, and her spirit's going to be a hare out in the meadows somewhere.
Nope.
And he threatens he's going to go get some more cops. He's coming back, and go ahead. Rings the little bell. The butler comes and takes him away. And
he's sweating too, so it must be a hot night.
I think he's just so frustrated
and sweat coming down. Yeah, he can't put up with this too much longer.
Because this is where he voices his concern that he really thinks that this is foul play. Right. That this is when he first says, I think that she died from some sort. She was murdered in some sort of pagan ritual. Yeah. And he's starting to put the whole picture thing back together again. Right. And he wants to know where that picture is, if Rowan Morrison was in that picture from last year. So he goes immediately from Lord Summerall's house to bust back into the druggist, photographer place.
Yeah, / pharmacist, yeah.
And does find that he does indeed. He kept, the negatives.
Yeah.
And by God, thank God that Howie knows how to develop a picture.
Right. Because he's the chemicals he needed.
And all the fluids there. and he develops a picture, and sure enough, he sees that it is in the picture that was missing on the wall. It is Rowan Morrison, and there's very little fruit and vegetables there.
So it was a bad
so
harvest.
Now he realizes, bad harvest. And this is where he realizes that, it was a poor it was a poor harvest, and she was either sacrificed or is going to be sacrificed for a better harvest for the next year to the gods. And that's where now he's putting it all together, and now it's kind of like a race against time. He wants to find where she is. He feels that she's still alive, that they're waiting to sacrifice her because he knows the next day is the May Day festival, and this is what's going to keep him there. Right. So, and then they zoom in on the calendar. May Day, the next day.
May 1st, yes. Oh, no. So that's when, he thinks to go either save her or,
Right. And he does, think he's going to go get more officers and come back, but they've seen to that. So,
yeah.
I mean,
it's not going to happen.
And he flies in on this little plane that's parked on the water, and he can't really leave in the darkness, so he's got to wait till the morning to go.
Right.
And then comes my favorite part of the movie. And if you've seen it, you know what my favorite part of the movie is.
Yeah.
Tell them all about your favorite part of the movie.
Well, he goes back to his apartment, whatever,
his hotel room.
And she starts knocking on to what's her name again? Willow.
I like when she walks by the room. You just see her shouting. She's like, Sergeant.
He starts enticing her.
She starts enticing him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You said he starts enticing.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, laying on that bed.
She's laying on a bed, knocking on the door, all naked,
and again, the guys, your hippie guys, are downstairs playing that
the
song.
Music.
They're just playing music. It's called Willow's song.
She's just a prostitute up there, and all the people
she's
downstairs.
Aphrodite incarnate.
Oh, I know. Okay. Anyways, and
he's praying. This is the scene. He's at the bed praying again.
Oh, yeah.
And she's singing this song, trying to tantalize him. And a lot of sexual double meanings in this song.
Right.
Especially the one I remember is about the bull. How a maid can milk a bull and every stroke a bucket full. And
And she's walking around the room so slowly and erotic.
Banging on the walls.
Boom.
Which is a body double. When you see her from behind, it's a body double. It's not really. I don't know why. That's her. We gotta watch that favorite part here on. Dude.
But he is so trying not to.
I know he's breaking his heart. He's engaged.
Yes,
they do establish that at the beginning of the movie. I know,
he's at the wall. He's like
opens the door, closes it back up.
Yes,
and he's sliding down the wall. Like, God, I want her so bad.
The thought. I mean, who knows? Maybe something.
And this is really. I mean, this is his temptation. They want to. I mean. I mean, they're going to establish why they picked him later on. Right. But I think this was like his big test.
Yeah.
You know, if he had given in, if he had gone in there to have her,
he wouldn't have been a good sacrifice.
Yeah, he would not. Right, which we get to. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It's all right. You know about it already. You know it. You know where it's going.
Yeah.
And you know, he resists. He does resist, and
yeah, he's a good guy.
He really believes. Guy. You know, he's engaged. He's a very devout Christian, and he stands by his beliefs. I'll give him that, even though he's intolerant but he stood by what he believed. So you know, he walks it like he talks it. Yeah. And
she's still walking around naked.
Yeah, sings the whole song. She really tries to get him in there, but he does not do it. Goes to bed, unbuttons his shirt, and he gets back in the bed.
He is going nuts.
And the next morning she, brings him breakfast, and he sleeps late, and she said, I thought you were going to visit me. Yeah, and I love that, and he kind of explains he's engaged and he doesn't believe in it before marriage and all that.
He does specify that. Yeah.
These people obviously do. So, and then it takes us to May Day, the May Day festival.
Yeah,
and it starts off, after he has that brief conversation with Willow, he does try to leave.
Right.
He tries to leave.
And you gotta love when all the old men come up with their masks.
Yeah, the kids and everybody. And that used to be like, that was the picture that I saw in a magazine, the picture of everyone wearing like the mask, the fish and the goat and whatever. I remember seeing that in one of the magazines, and that's where I'd first heard about it, but you couldn't go to a Blockbuster or anything and rent that tape. Nobody had that tape. It was kind of like David Lynch's Eraserhead. Nobody had that movie.
Right.
Except this one place.
Oh, you know what? We got to do Eraserhead.
We'll do Eraserhead one time.
Oh, that is a movie that's out there. But anyway.
All right. There was one video store in North Royalton that had Eraserhead, and I would drive from where I live out to North Royalton, a little plaza, and I would rent Eraserhead when I wanted Eraserhead.
The days when
you'd have to drive around.
Yes, to see who had what movie.
And that wasn't like a Blockbuster or anything. That was like a little mom and pop.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like Beware, and Blockbuster would never have a movie like Wicker Man or Eraserhead or anything. They never had it.
But yeah, he's very pissed because his
plane will work. They screwed with it, and I like the guy who said, "If any of the children had been out here, the kids are messing with the plane." And can you bring the dinghy back, please? He's got his little megaphone, and they've done this in order to keep him to stay. Yeah. He's passed all the tests, and what we will find is that he's livid now. He's gonna check. He goes to the library. Okay. Just to look up a little bit about May Day, and that's where he kind of learns about the
sacrifice.
The sacrifice. He learns about the characters that are going to be portrayed in the May Day festival. The what do they call it? Like a horse, which in this film looks a little bit more like almost like a sea monster kind of. It's a guy who wears a big horse around his waist, and the jaw claps, and you're going to do this big parade and a big dance. There's Lord Summerisle is going to play like what they call it, like the he, she, the man, woman. Yeah. He dresses kind of like a woman, hair, and he's got his scythe in one hand, and
they're all getting ready for that.
And then Punch, the fool, the king for a day. He's like the jester kind of character, and we find that Willow's father, the innkeeper, Mr. McGregor, plays Punch. So he learns a little bit about the May Day festival. He makes the rounds. He goes to the what's her name? Morrison's mother.
Mae Morrison.
And he basically tells her right there, I am going to search every house, every building. I am going to find Rowan. I know she's alive. I know what you guys are planning. How can you do this? This is your daughter. And she doesn't...
She goes, go ahead, whatever you want.
I mean, whatever. And then he proceeds to do this. I mean, he's already
outdoors, walking right in.
He broke into the photo place, breaking and entering. Yeah. No warrants. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know warrants, whatever. But and then he forces his way into every home. And I love like the first one he goes in, the kids look out the window and they're wearing their masks. He's like, take those off. Like, no, take them off.
Oh,
he's just so mad. It's their festival.
Oh, he's pissed. Well, they're all... He's in this little nightmare that's going on.
It's true.
And he doesn't know that it's going on.
Right. I mean, he's searching buildings. He walks in on Ingrid Pitt taking a bath.
She's just laying there in the old tub, butt naked.
He even looks out a window, sees a boat. I don't know what. I'm going to go check that boat. Yep. Walks across town, checks the boat. Nothing on the boat. Goes to the bakeries where they're making the big bread. And I love how when they're making the bread, like the big bread man, it's in a coffin, like a steel coffin, and then they pull it out of the oven. Yes. That's so awesome. And he's searching all around, and he doesn't see any sign of Rowan Morrison anywhere. Goes back, says he's going to... And I love this, too, that he's going to go back to his room and take a nap for half an hour. And
because he's been so tired knocking down doors and,
But one cool thing that they do here is, he's taking a nap, and Mr. McGregor and Willow are talking, and if you don't listen real quick, you can't hear what they say, but they say Hand of Glory, that, they're going to use the Hand of Glory on him. And if you know anything about the Hand of Glory... do you remember when he's searching through the houses, he goes into, I think it's maybe a funeral parlor, and he's lifting up coffins. Right. And he lifts up the lid of one coffin, there's a body in there. Mm. There's the coins on the eyes, and you can tell that there's a hand missing. Yeah. All right. And then with the hand, and then when they mention the Hand of Glory, that's that dude's hand. Yeah. All right. And what they would do, the Hand of Glory,
which is in his room later.
Right.
He knocks it off.
They say they're going to use the Hand of Glory, and what that was used for, they would usually... And here it's a little bit different in the movie. They would take, let's say, like a murderer or someone who was going to be hanged or something like that. The hand that did the crime, they would cut that hand off. Right. And they would, put some candle wax on it, and they would, burn that. And anybody who... It was used for lots of different things, but how it pertains to the Wicker Man movie is whoever was in contact with it, it would make them not be able to move. And so that's why they're going to use the Hand of Glory. And they don't say that in the movie, but that's, because when I first watched it, like, what's the deal with this hand? Mm. And I could kind of figure out where they got it from, but it was like, how, they're burning it? Why?
Didn't explain it too well.
No, so I had to kind of research that.
Figure it out yourself.
And there's lots of things that they used it for, but that's a real thing, the Hand of Glory. And they put on a candle stand and light it on fire, and somehow he's able to rouse up a little bit enough to knock it over. Takes the candlestick and now I don't know if this was all planned. Obviously, I don't think this was planned. Yeah. But knocks out Mr. McGregor while he's getting ready to dress up as Punch, ties him to the bed. He's got a gag and he's all tied up. And Sergeant Howie decides he's going to dress up as Punch. And he's going to get into this festival and find out for himself what's going on.
Infiltrate, yeah.
Infiltrate. Yeah. And so they're having the parade or whatever, and Christopher Lee's yelling at him, come on, get into it, dance.
Because he's not doing it right, because...
I suppose you got drunk at your own bar. And I don't know if Christopher Lee realizes if it's Howie yet.
Right, yeah. I don't think so.
No, I think everybody realizes it's Howie when he takes off his mask and we see that it's Howie. Yeah. But and I like all the women start showing. Ingrid Pitt comes again with her hair all down and beautiful, and his job is to kind of take his little stick and whack them all on the bum. And it says they're just doing this march, and they're all wearing all kinds of different masks. Cool stuff. Yeah. Like real cows' heads and owls and fish and a lot of hares, rabbits. So they march all this way through the town, through the village, and they're supposed to be heading to the beach, down their sacred path. He says,
and the whole time they're watching the sun getting lower.
Right, because everything's going to happen at sunset. Yes, and there's the part that we were talking about at the beginning with the swords. Right. There's these fellas, with swords, and they have a little stage. Little sword fight as they're going through the parade. Yeah. And they all line up and make their swords into like a Star of David. And everyone takes a little turn. They start saying chop, 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 chop. And they all have to take turns putting their heads through the swords and coming back out. Yeah. And everybody's going to take a turn. And when it's Howie's turn, I think he's a little scared. And he's like, come on, McGregor, you know what to do. Everyone takes a turn. And I love when they finally do chop off someone's head. It's like done on purpose, like a child's wearing a costume with like a big head on it of a hair. Yeah. And they just slice that right off. And he kind of gives himself away there because he stops and he's looking, and it's almost like he wants to go and make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
But everyone else knows what's going on.
Yeah, they've been doing this for 100 years. I mean,
right, and
I'm sure they know it's. But so they're taking pictures with the old camera.
Oh yeah, the old guy's taking his pictures. And eventually they make their way, down to where the cave is. The rocks, the cave. There's a cave there. And that's where we see Rowan Morrison. She's being
running
held.
Through the cave.
Well, she's been held. She's there. She's got her white virgin's dress on, little crown of flowers. She's tied up, and they zoom in on her, so we know for sure that's her. Yeah. And that's when Howie, in his costume stuff, just takes off, starts running up the hill. Everyone, what the heck's going on? Mm-hmm. And that's when everybody, I think, maybe that's when everybody realizes that, oh, there's Howie. He's doing it. But it's all still kind of like part of the plan.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I kind of think makes this a 70s movie is the music that plays when they're chasing through the cave to get out. It is kind of like that 70s-ish music. Okay. But, Rowan's in on this too. She's like, do you know what they're going to do to me? I don't like this place. Help me. And, I mean, there's a couple of burly guys trying to run up, the hill, trying to get at him. But they make their way through the cave, come out the other side, and then, there's Lord Summerisle right there. And... Rowan runs right into his arms. Did I do it right? Did I do it okay? And now is where the plan's going to be revealed.
Right.
Everything that we kind of have been figuring out along the way. Yeah. He's going to be, and this is where I start to feel a little bad for him again. From like the time, after that first night that he's there to about this point, he's kind of a jerk.
I understand.
He's breaking the law. He's
his attitude.
His attitude towards other people.
Yeah.
But this is where I start to feel sorry for him again. Once the plan is revealed to him,
right.
This is where Christopher Lee, Lord Summerisle, starts telling him, you were brought here. We controlled everything you thought, everything you did from the time you got here.
Yeah.
And this is, he's surrounded by all the village folk here.
Yeah.
And
Nowhere
this is
to go.
this is the part to me that's very frightening, is that they are all in on it. And it's not just like in on it like a plot or anything. They honestly believe that this is what they should do.
Oh, right.
And it's revealed that they needed a special kind of sacrifice because the crops failed.
Yeah.
You can sacrifice animals and that's okay. You can sacrifice a child and that's okay. But if you can get what did he say? There's a particular kind of adult, that's even better. So then they explained they needed someone to come there willingly, which he did. He got that letter and he came of his own free will. He didn't have to go, but he decided to go. Someone with, they said a representative of a king, and they figured that because he's a cop, he's got a
little bit of power,
some power, and that he's a virgin, and which he is, and so those are the things that make him the special kind of sacrifice that they can use.
Yeah.
And, it's revealed that he is going to be sacrificed for the harvest next year. And
it makes you wonder, though, how the heck they came up with such an elaborate plan. And
everyone just fully believed it. You just know that if anybody comes looking for this guy, there's not going to be one trace. The plane's going to be sunk.
No, yeah.
They're going to dismantle it and sink it, and no one's ever going to say anything. And they all, it's not just, like I said, it's not just like a plot, to kill somebody. They believe.
Right.
They think this is great, that he should be happy about this. He believes in Jesus, and he's going to be a martyr, and, this is good for him too. That's what they tell him. This is good for you too.
Right.
You're going to help us, but you're also going to go be with Jesus, who you love so much, and be a martyr, and sit at the table with the saints, and this is kind of like where the whole, when it comes right down to it, maybe that's true, but you don't want to die.
No.
And, they're preparing his body. They got the big guys holding him down, and I feel like he's not resisting very much, but at the same time, he's being held down. There's no...
Right.
He could resist all he wants, but, with... And everyone's gonna
you think you'd be scratching.
And you know what I have a hard time with? And the other thing that's really frightening about this is there's not one person in this whole film that we're shown that says, should we really do this? This is not right. This.
Oh yeah.
That's what it's just
from the children all the way up.
All the way, and that's what I said. In this movie, it's the people who are monsters that they honestly believe that this is going to work.
Yes.
And how he even says, it's. Sacrifice isn't going to do it. Your soil's not good anymore. It's not. This environment's not proper for these kind of strains of fruits and vegetables you want to grow. Sacrificing me isn't going to make your crops grow. And and I love it. Next year. And this is always the part that made me think Christopher Lee maybe doesn't believe it. It's just not for any particular reason. Just that when he says, next year, only the Lord Summerisle is going to be good enough to be sacrificed. He's the only one that's going to be good enough to be sacrificed for your crops next year. And he says the crops will succeed, and he believes that this is but it almost seemed to me like when he said that he's got a little look, if
like
this doesn't work, I'm going to be next. And
he's just rolling the dice, hoping that everything's great next year.
Right. I mean, maybe he really believes it. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Part of me just thinks that maybe he realizes, this could be me next year. Yeah. We're not going to get that far to know. Mm-hmm. And I said, it's just the fact that everyone honestly believes that this is the right thing to do just makes it so scary and so frightening. And then when they start dragging him up the hill,
carrying him to the huge
Wicker Man when he sees it,
and classic.
That's what I feel so bad for. Because he's all, Jesus Christ, no, please, no. And then
he's fighting back as he's in this giant Wicker Man.
And if you've seen the film, it's just very intimidating. It's
60 foot tall.
It's just so amazing. Yeah. It's there's little compartments in there where they have animals and produce. And then, he's all dressed in virgin white, and they've cleansed his body. Yeah, and I like how the girls use their hair to dry him. I mean, they're treating him lovingly and with respect. I mean, they don't see it the same way that he sees it. They don't see it as murder.
Poor guy.
They see it as something good for him. Yeah. And that he came willingly. He came to them. Mm-hmm. So this gave them almost the right to do this. Mm-hmm. And they put him in there, they set it ablaze, and they're all singing their pagan song like this, and hand in hand, all in a circle around the Wicker Man, and he's spouting out Psalm 23, and
reaching out as if he can,
he's telling them all, it's going to be you will die, and that he believes in the Lord Jesus Christ, and he's singing Psalm 23 like as a song, and you just hear the last couple times he yells out Jesus and or Christ, and the flames are all engulfed. It's just it's blood curdling when he yells those out. Oh yeah. And the Wicker Man's burning down.
It's a scene, man.
It's a scene. And it's worth the whole movie. It's what we've built up to, and there's no happy ending. This is like a 70. In the 70s they could do that. Yeah. They had movies and it didn't. It just ended. And it was kind of nihilistic, just ended, and characters were in limbo or dead and didn't have a happy ending. And it shows the head of the Wicker Man. I love it when it kind of tilts over. It's burned and it's tilted over, and then there's the setting sun, and you hear the rest of the song, and the film fades out. And it's just what's cool. Yeah. I mean, movies like I said, nothing really. Except for maybe a couple little odd pieces of music, nothing really dates this movie to the 70s like other movies do. Right. This movie could have just as easily taken place in the 2000s, I think.
Well, yeah, because they're so isolated.
Right. And there's no phones. I don't see any character really using a phone. Right. I mean, there's no computers. But, they're an isolated village, so maybe they probably wouldn't have very good internet access or cell phone coverage or anything like that. Yeah. But there's no cars. You don't see any cars. You see, a rowboat. You see a plane that looks just like a plane that you would see today. Yeah. And apart from that, that's all the technology you really see. So this is something that could happen right now.
Oh, yeah, timeless movie. I mean,
and that's why that's another thing. That's what makes it timeless. It's not dated like some other films are. Yeah. And I just don't think anybody today would make that exact same movie.
Well, that's why I guess everybody hated the remake. They just like anything usually.
I don't see anybody who saw that remake saw the original. It's so damn hard to find. Yeah. Well, maybe it was on DVD by that time.
Yeah.
But
they just they don't put as much effort into these remakes anymore. I mean, it's just...
No, I mean...
Do you know of any remakes that are better than the original? That's a tough question. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean...
No, I mean, there's some that, I suppose are good. I'll tell you what, I do like the newer version of True Grit. Just because I'm not a big John Wayne fan.
Okay.
But I've read the True Grit book, and I think the newer version's a lot truer to the book than the John Wayne version. So there you go. There's my one example. Cool. I think it's the only remake I own. So, but other than that, I can't think. As far as like horror films and things like that, no, I don't think any remakes are better than the originals at all. But it's not always like a remake though. Sometimes like you take Dracula. There's been lots of different Draculas, but Dracula's a book. It's just a reinterpretation of a book, and that's kind of how I see True Grit too. It's just another reinterpretation of the book.
Right.
So
what do you think? What do you think we should do next week? Any ideas? You like Eraserhead? You want to?
We could do Eraserhead. We could do something
funny.
Think
about it.
Yeah, or we always put it out there for you guys. If you watch this and there's a movie you want us to do, let us know. We definitely we give it like a day or two before we decide.
Right.
I think we didn't hear anything, so we said we're going to go Wicker Man, and we hope you guys really like this. If you haven't seen this film, you got to see it. We'll post in a day or two what we're going to do for next week. Got lots of ideas still, and we've got the room all set up for you. It wasn't like this last week when you couldn't see us.
Yeah, finally went live. So and I'll be adding more stuff as we go along here. But
our little memorabilia.
Yes.
But this is definitely one of my favorite movies, and I've really liked. I could still talk about this.
Yes, very good movie.
A lot of details about it, a lot of things. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch this movie.
Yes.
I think a lot of hardcore horror movie fans have seen it. People that like, the more gore and things like that may not get much out of this. It's definitely slower. Right. But that's what thing I like about movies from that time is they took the time to tell a story and suck you in.
Story-wise, this is up there.
I mean, there's lots of newer horror movie fans that think The Exorcist isn't scary. And The Exorcist scares the hell out of me.
Oh, God.
I mean, just because it's like a confirmation of evil
without a doubt.
And even though that's a very mainstream film, it's something we could talk about one time. Just if you know anything that happened while they were making it,
just to believe
all the things that happened.
Yeah.
A lot of bad things happened during the making of the Exorcist film.
A lot of bad things happened while I was watching it.
Yeah,
at the drive-in theater. Which I think we talked
your
about
uncle
before.
Passed out.
Yes, very very scary for a youngin'.
Right, but I think a film like this, like Exorcist, like Suspiria, The Shining, really gets to me. I don't need the gore. I don't need that stuff. That's all cool. Some and hey, I like Reanimator and stuff like that. I like my share of that stuff.
My zombie movies.
Yeah,
Walking Dead, all
and
that stuff.
There's a place for that. But the ones that, like I said, haunt my mind, get under my skin, Wicker Man, especially the ending of Wicker Man, the whole movie, Shining, just the whole time I'm just tense. And I've seen it. I know exactly what happens.
Right.
And Suspiria, just with the images and the colors and the music and that film, that's another one we could do if you haven't seen it.
Suspiria.
Have you seen Suspiria?
Long time ago.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
we can definitely do that again.
Fantastic. So. And Exorcist, like I said, it's just like a confirmation of, I'm not a religious person, but it's just like a confirmation of evil, that it exists and it hates us. And those are the horror movies, of more modern times, that it just really get in my, the Hammers and the Universals. Those are great. I love my monsters, and but just the imagery. These are the films that I just mentioned that actually kind of like frighten me, and not a one of them really have like any monsters in it.
No, the psychological,
right? And so fantastic film. I've really enjoyed talking about this movie.
Heck yeah.
So. If you haven't seen it, watch it, and we'll be back next week with something new.
Yep, and like us on Facebook. We're
Please.
on Facebook.
Like me.
Yeah, like us everywhere. We're on YouTube, iTunes. Check us out. Everything's the Little Monsters Movie Podcast. So, yep, and that's our first live show, so hopefully you guys like it.
Absolutely.
And till next week.
Good evening.
Yeah.